All right, let's sit down here for a minute and talk about school pricing and what it might mean to think of your pricing maybe a little bit out of the box as to what is the status quo in the martial arts industry. I propose a kind of pricing that's like this. You have your full price program. That's what you need to charge to make your school run. If you charge less than that amount, the formula doesn't work out to meet your expenses. So it doesn't really matter what you charge per month. I mean, it matters, but it doesn't really matter, because if it doesn't meet your overhead and financial needs, and you can't make the machine of your school pay for what it costs to run the school and give you and your staff members a decent lifestyle, then it doesn't matter if you charge $50 a month or $150. If that cumulative amount of money isn't adding up to meet expenses, then it's neither here nor there. You can work your tail off, and if it doesn't pay for everything in the end, where are you, right? There are certain peak hours through the week. Like, you're not going to start a class at 2 a.m. and expect it to be just jam-packed full of people. There's a window when you're going to be able to service your community, parents, young adults, adults, and they're going to be able to come and go home and still have a life. During those hours, let's say they were Monday through Thursday, because that's how it used to be in my schools. Monday through Thursday, we serve the bulk of our clientele. Well, if Monday through Thursday was filled with people, the bulk of the people we served, then those days were responsible primarily for paying our bills. And I couldn't give those lessons away. I couldn't discount them enormously. I couldn't offer a half-price class or anything like that, because I had a finite amount of time and space. And if that time and space didn't generate the income the school needed to pay its bills, then I had to scramble, or I went into the red. So let's say that you look at it and say, okay, so Monday through Thursday, all those hours, I have to fill that with students who can afford to pay the tuition that makes sense for us. But what about the people in your community who can't afford that? Who, whatever you charge, whatever the rates, let's just say that there's a segment of our population in any community, single moms, people living on minimum wage, whatever it is. Let's say that you have a group in your community who you can't afford to bring in and offer classes because you've got 20 spaces on the mat, you've got 5 classes a day. If those numbers don't generate your income, you're in trouble. Do you just forget about them? Hey, listen, you can't pay my tuition, so I'm not going to be your teacher. Yes, you could do that. I also think there's a way for you to offer something that even the parent who couldn't pay 1985 prices but could pay $40 a month or $60 a month, $2 a day, could come and you could provide service for their children. Now, this isn't about you being a super smart business person, although it's not stupid, and I'll tell you why. It's about you saying, listen, I don't want to see children and people in my community who live below a certain economic level to be left out. I can help service them, and I can do it with high-quality instructors in a really good facility. I have to send them to somebody who's willing to teach at a lower rate because they lack the experience or they're out in left field. I want to make sure that I can provide help for them too. Not because it makes perfect economic sense, but because it's my responsibility to serve this community. I'm sensei, not just to the people who can afford my lessons Monday through Thursday. I want to see those kids who I can help and mentor and maybe keep out of trouble. So here's what you might do. You might take a day that wasn't on your peak hours and you might offer a class or 2 classes, and you might charge less for that hour. The parent comes in and you say our classes are $135 a month, and of course mom's clicking, she needs tires, they don't have health care, something's going on, there's a lot of demands on their finances and they just don't make very much right now. And so immediately she checks you off because she's not going to do that, or you say, listen, I recognize you can't pay this, so come into my regular class and I'll give it to you for this much because you got a big heart. But that doesn't really serve you because you have a responsibility to school to fill those peak hours with people who can pay a rate of tuition that makes the whole machine work. But on Saturdays at 10 a.m. or Saturdays at 1 or Fridays at 7, You could say, Mrs. Johnson, we have a class. It's only one day a week, but it's $60 a month. This is when it is. Does that fit into your schedule? And she says, yes, that fits into my schedule. I can afford that. Well, now, you haven't filled your school peak hours, the earning hours, with people who are paying less than 100%. But you have this hour that was formerly maybe not very productive where you can provide a service. And guess what? If I pay $200 a month in your school and I come 5 days a week, I'm paying $10 for the hours that I come. If I come in for an hour, I've spent $10 for that class. If I pay $60 a month and I come for 1 hour, I paid $15 for that class. You can offer a class where the school doesn't really suffer economically for the time that you're offering, and it serves a portion of the community that may not be able to pay what you charge that makes sense for your school financially. But you don't have to cut them out. 1 day a week, you might say, well, what martial arts can anybody learn in 1 day a week? Well, let me tell you about the 10-year-old getting ready to go into his teenage years, living at home with a single mom, father's out of the scene for whatever reason, and in his community he lives in, he's being affected negatively by people who are doing negative things, and you get a chance to be this person's mentor, to light the flame, the spark of things that could be very good for them. Maybe they fall in love with martial arts. Maybe you see this kid and you go, you know, that kid is an investment. So I'm going to let him come into my regular classes, despite the fact that he pays less, because I see the spark of martial arts passion in him, and I think I can have a huge influence. That's what it's about. What if I already have a child that's doing dance and theater and music lessons, but I really want them to learn martial arts, but it doesn't make sense for me to sign up to a program where I can have unlimited attendance 4 or 5 days a week. My budget doesn't support it, and we're already very busy, but I can fit her into that one class. There's no reason that you couldn't introduce yourself and the joy of martial arts, starting with 1 day, which eventually, if you do a good job, turns into 2 and 3, and you've got a real student. It's a portion of your community might be serviced by a class like that, and it doesn't hurt you at all. In fact, it might be an open door or a gateway to better relationships with a segment of the population who might have originally written you off because your price point or your demands on their time don't fit their life, and you're there to serve them. If you don't lose financially from it, how can you call that a loss? Now, I have another aspect of pricing that I want you to consider. I want you to have 1 class a week where you train your instructors, where you invite older instructors who are now retired and not teaching but have a lot of martial arts experience, or people in your school who want to help teach but need to, to break that ice. I want you to offer 1 class a week that's by donation only or absolutely free, no questions asked. It can be on a Saturday morning at 7 o'clock. It could be on Sundays, whatever you can fit into your schedule. But I think that it's morally the right thing to do, ethically, to offer classes to kids in your community who, under no circumstances, could pay. I think that there's kids, you might save somebody's life that way. And if you do a good job at that and you promote it well, you may eventually have a body of evidence of your commitment to this kind of work that could draw a corporate sponsor or could go for a grant, but you have to start somewhere. And so imagine a martial arts school that serves your entire community. You can't afford lessons, don't you worry about it. This is the time we have available. If you can't make it, I'm sorry, but I make that time available. Let's see if we can't work it out. I've got a class that's priced in a way that doesn't exclude a portion of my population who just financially can't work it out. And I have my regular classes. None of those programs are better than the other. It's a way for a school to service its entire community. And there's good karmic content there. This is how I suggest you do pricing. I mean, there's 100 variables that you could implement. Bottom line is you need to serve your community, and in the end, nobody's taking advantage of you. You're well taken care of. You've thought it out. And because your needs are met, because you're not desperate, because you've thought it out, because you're smart, you can then turn and say, it's every citizen's responsibility, especially as a martial arts master teacher, to go find those kids who I might be able to greatly enhance the quality of their life just by the nature of what we do. And I don't want to see those kids get turned away because I haven't got the sense, or I haven't got the resources to use the time that I have and the empty spaces in my schedule to help reach these people, to help reach them like someone might have reached out for you if you're watching this. Full price, 1 day a week that fits into your schedule. Not any day of the week, because when your school's full, you need to schedule. And every scheduled class has to be full of students that it makes sense, so that you're not teaching a bunch of people at the end of the month going, wow, we worked really hard, but there's not enough money to give a raise, to do vacation, to do investment, to pay the bills. We can't do that. That just doesn't make sense. But you can come up with alternate ways where you can use volunteerism, volunteers from your school. You can use it to train up and coming staff members, and you can do something that feels right and that you know is the right thing to do.